Welcome to the Cosmic Busker. My name is Bobby Cody. In this video I want to take a look at an interview with Cory Booker. It is my opinion, based on circumstantial evidence, that Cory Booker was somehow, even if only partially via pre-knowledge, involved with the Jussie Smollett hoax. I'm basing that on the chronological time of events and his responses to questions regarding the Jussie Smollett hoax. So I'm going to go through that, and I'm going to explain my thinking and my reasoning in this video, and why I think if you watch this whole thing you'll come to the same conclusion, or the most likely conclusion, that yeah, he was involved. First, I want to cut right to him lying about this. It's very obvious just from his responses, and I'll explain why his responses are most obviously lies. First, let's take a look at the interview of Cory Booker, where he is being asked about the Jussie Smollett hoax. Let's cut to it right now.
Senator, you called the alleged attack on Jussie Smollett a modern-day lynching when it happened. Now police sources are telling many networks that Mr. Smollett is under potential investigation for, concocting a story and paying these men. Is it time to revisit what you said about these remarks? What is your feeling on potential hoax hate crimes in general?
Well, the information's still coming out. I'm going to withhold until all the information actually comes out from on-the-record sources. We know in America that bigoted and biased attacks are on the rise in a serious way. And we actually even know in this country that since 9/11, the majority of the terrorist attacks on our soil have been right-wing terrorist attacks. The majority of them white supremacist attacks, from the horrific shootings in Pittsburgh or in South Carolina church. What we're seeing is attacks on people because they're different, and we all need to join together and condemn those attacks and the hatred and the bigotry that sources them.
Do you think it's time for Mr. Smollett to address this more publicly, though, given what's out there? Again,
I'm following this in the news as you are, and we'll see what happens.
But wouldn't a risk of, a hoax of attack, wouldn't that be a detriment to the work that you're trying to do with your anti-lynching bill? Wouldn't that hurt the movement somehow?
Again, we have seen painful realities surge in our country, rise in anti-Semitism, anti-Islamic attacks. We're seeing just vicious, horrific, cruel violence that's motivated by bias and hate. We need to do more to protect all Americans and make sure all neighborhoods and communities are safe.
Have you spoken with Mr. Smollett?
No.
Senator, I want to ask you about Amazon, because you helped.
All right off the bat, I want to say kudos for passing a modern-day lynching bill. As I'll show in a moment, that passed unanimously in the Senate. I have no issues with that. The issues with it is that the last lynching in the United States was in 1981. This is 2018, so it's almost 40 years ago. Do the math, it's 38 years. So, kudos. If any lynchings, I hope they punish the criminals harshly. Nobody should be subjected to that from a vigilante group. However, the timing of this lynching bill leads me to believe that Cory Booker may have somehow been involved in the Jussie Smollett hoax. First, I want to go and take a look at that interview again. I want to speak about it. Notice Cory Booker is asked these questions, and he's very verbose in his answers. He speaks quite a bit to each question, answering it in complete sentences and engaging in the interviewer. I believe it's 3 questions. Once I cut up the interview, I'll verify that. I don't do all these off the top of my head. I'm certain that was 3 questions. And in the 4th question, his demeanor completely changes. He closes his eyes and turns away like that. It's a tell. He's lying. And I'm going to go into that in a little depth, so I'm going to show that interview, but I want to cut it up just so you can see the difference in his answers to each question. Let's go right to that right now.
Senator, you called the alleged attack on Jussie Smollett a modern-day lynching when it happened. Now police sources are telling many networks that Mr. Smollett is under potential investigation for, concocting a story and paying these men. Is it time to revisit what you had said about these remarks? What is your feeling on potential hoax hate crimes in general?
Well, the information's still coming out, and I'm going to withhold until all the information actually comes out. Bigotry that sources them.
Do you think it's time for Mr. Smollett to address this more publicly, though, given what's out there?
Again, I'm following this in the news as you are, and we'll see.
But wouldn't a risk of, a hoax of attack, wouldn't that be a detriment to the work that you're trying to do with your anti-lynching bill? Wouldn't that hurt the movement somehow?
Again, we have seen painful realities surge in our country, rise in anti-Semitism, anti-Islamic attacks.
Have you spoken with Mr. Smollett?
No. Senator, I want to ask you about Amazon because you.
Mr. Smollett?
No. Senator, I want to
with Mr. Smollett?
No.
Senator, I want to.
Mr. Smollett?
No.
Senator, I want.
You see that? That's called a tell. You can tell he's lying. And how you can tell he's lying is his response to the questions. The first three questions, he's verbose, loquacious, he speaks, he answers the question even if he doesn't really answer the question, as politicians are wont to do. And then he's asked, real quick, have you spoken to Jussie Smollett? No. No. And he turns away. The quick no and the way he turns away, it's a tell. He's lying. Not a question. He's lying. He's spoken to Jussie Smollett on the phone. Why would he speak to Jussie Smollett on the phone? It's my opinion that he was involved in the hoax. I'm going to show a little timeline of news, and you'll see that in my opinion, it was arranged to give publicity to Cory Booker's anti-lynching bill. A lynching that hasn't happened since 1981. So I'm going to go through the, I'm going to go through a timeline of news real quick, and you'll see why I believe that, aside from his obvious lying when asked that question. Oh, I also want to point out one more thing as well. Notice his dismissive body language right here. I'm going to show you real quick. This is the first question. It's a whole series of reasons you can tell he's lying about this. Aside from that, with that no, boom, he's lying. But look at his body response real quick when he's asked the first question. I want to show this to you.
Senator, you called the alleged attack on Jussie Smollett a modern-day lynching when it happened. Now police sources are telling many networks that Mr. Smollett is under potential investigation for, concocting a story and paying these men. 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 Investigation for, concocting a story and paying these men.
See that? Yeah, hate crime hoax to malign Trump supporters. Shrug it away. Yeah. Who cares? Yeah, man of the people, huh? Let's go through the timeline of events real quick, why I think this is a hoax. It's pretty obvious. This hoax involved Cory Booker and Kamala Harris. I'm going to go through the timeline real quick. Let's take a look. This article was written on Wednesday, January 30th on CNN. It was written by Sandra Gonzalez. Empire star Jussie Smollett attacked in possible hate crime. Empire actor Jussie Smollett was attacked in the early morning hours on Tuesday in what Chicago police are calling a possible hate crime. Smollett was attacked by two people who were yelling out racial and homophobic slurs and poured an unknown chemical substance on the victim, police said. One of Smollett's alleged attackers also put a rope around his neck, according to police. Both fled the scene. Okay, so here we have Jussie Smollett allegedly being attacked, chemical substance poured all over him, racial and homophobic slurs, and a rope put around his neck to simulate a lynching. This happened on Tuesday, Wednesday, January 29th. Let's take a look at what happened just before the attack on Jussie Smollett and what happened just after the attack on Jussie Smollett, both that involve Cory Booker. Let's take a look. Okay, this is from Cory Booker's own Senate government website. The date is February 14, 2019, 2 weeks after the attack. Booker, Harris, Scott lead unanimous passage of federal anti-lynching legislation. Again, notice the date. Today, U.S. Senators Cory Booker and Kamala Harris asked for unanimous consent on the Senate floor to pass the Bipartisan Justice for Victims of Lynching Act. Legislation that would criminalize lynching for the first time in American history. Lo and behold, here's another second press release or article on Cory Booker's Senate Governor website. Let's see what it says. Booker-Harris statement on Senate passage of anti-lynching bill. Why is this twice on his website? Well, the date on this one is December 19, 2018. As you see, it says, bill would make lynching a federal hate crime after more than a century of failed attempts. And now let's take a look at the beginning of this December 19th article or press release on his website and see what that says. U.S. Senators Cory Booker and Kamala Harris, members of the Senate Judiciary Committee, issued a blow statement following the passage through the Senate by unanimous consent of their Bipartisan Justice for Victims of Lynching Act of 2018, historic legislation. Both before and after Jussie Smollett hoaxed his own attack, Cory Booker puts a press release on his website. Anti-lynching bill, voted unanimously. All right, let's see what happened 8 days before Jussie Smollett hoaxed the attack on himself. This is from the Metro UK website. Jussie Smollett received chilling hate mail 8 days before racist attack. Jussie Smollett receives a chilling piece of mail, that threatens him. Does he seek extra security? Is he scared? He must be. Well, what does he do? It has also been claimed that Foxx offered Jussie security following the arrival of the letter, but he turned it down. Sources close to Jussie alleged to TMZ that security for the entire cast was increased last week and that they wanted to give Jussie additional protection around the clock. But he said no because it was an intrusive way of living. Yeah, that's a very intrusive way of living, especially if you want to continue perpetuating a hoax. So, I want to go through a time. It was after, 8 days later. He's alleged to be attacked by two guys, white guys from MAGA country. Complete hoax. Let's go through a timeline of exactly what happened real quick. So Cory Booker and Kamala Harris and Tim Scott pass a modern-day anti-lynching bill. More power to them. That was December 19, 2018. Awesome. Good for them. There hasn't been one in 38 years, though. So it doesn't make a lot of press. It's almost like a shrug. Yeah, great. There's a lynching. Yeah, then it'll make the press. Other than that, nobody cares. 1981 was the last lynching, and that's thank God. So no press. Then Jussie Smollett sends a letter to himself, threatening himself. No press. No press whatsoever. Next, Jussie Smollett is attacked. Of course, the attack is a hoax, and as part of perpetuating the hoax, they put a noose around him. All of a sudden, lynchings are in the news now, and what does Cory Booker do? He throws up a press release about how he had gotten unanimous consent, pass a modern-day anti-lynching bill. Boom, now it's in the press, and there's a little bit more attention to his anti-lynching bill. And then the prosecutor, Foxx, gives Jussie Smollett a complete exoneration despite the fact that there's abundant evidence that he perpetrated this hoax. Let's see what a prosecutor, a former prosecutor and criminal defense attorney, Robert or Bobby Bianchi or Bob Bianchi, has to say about this. Is this normal? How frequently does this type of behavior happen? Let's go to Robert Bianchi. This is on Fox News with Shepard Smith. He's being interviewed by.
Former prosecutor Bob Bianchi is here.
Shep, I have a question. Why not give the guy a kiss? This is unbelievable. It's a disgrace to those who are truly victims of hate crimes, to the police that exhaustively went through this, to a prosecutor who accepted that he committed these crimes, to the grand jury that indicted him. And there are defendants that we have, I represent right now, who have done far, far less, and they wouldn't get this kind of treatment. It's a whitewash, and then they seal the records, and he gets to go out and say, I'm innocent. The mayor's been thrown under the bus. The judicial system's been thrown under the bus. The Chicago Police Department is. And this is what really got me. Let's listen to what the prosecutor said, because there's only one valid reason to reverse a grand jury investigation, and that is newly discovered evidence, Brady material, we call it. Here's the answer that the prosecutor gave for making this unbelievably disgraceful decision. After reviewing the facts and circumstances of the case, yikes, you think you do that when you presented the case to the grand jury, including his volunteer service, an agreement to forfeit his bond, which is $10,000, which is nothing. We believe the outcome is just, and the disposition appropriate resolution of this case. It's outrageous.
That's right. Why not give him a kiss while Jussie Smollett is bleeping Chicago up the bleep to the tune of $120,000? Let's see what else he has to say about this.
Perhaps hundreds of thousands of dollars of police resources that could have went to ferreting out real crime that were wasted on this investigation. So
but haven't the prosecutors said he didn't do that? He didn't fake this.
They didn't say that he didn't do it. They just said that they felt it was an appropriate disposition. You can't take the money, the bond money,
well, actually,
for no
what
reason.
They said was he did nice community service and he gave us $10,000. Therefore, we're dismissing the charge.
Exactly. What they didn't say was he didn't do this. They're not. You just can't take the guy's $10,000 for no reason. You got to take it because there's an admission. Listen, we'll get rid of your case. We'll dismiss the charges if you give this as a penalty. So the prosecutor's saying that's punishment enough. The prosecutor did not say he did not do this. And if I were the Chicago Police Department and the mayor, I would bring a civil suit so that I can get him on the record.
There's got to be something we don't know, Bob. We do know that the state's attorney.
Yes, there's got to be something we don't know about this. That's how Shepard Smith ended that. So what could it possibly be that we don't know? Well, we're going to find out, I think. And I think that if they unseal the records, and I think ultimately with the FBI will get involved and they will uncover what happened. If you want my opinion what happened, the reason the records were sealed is because Cory Booker and Kamala Harris were involved in the hoax. They needed a lynching to get some publicity because they're both running for president. Let's see what else Bobby has to say.
Up and calls the whole thing a sham. Have you ever seen anything like this?
Honest to God, I've never seen anything like this. Usually law enforcement, sometimes people hold their nose because you've got to make a prosecutorial decision based on a lack of evidence or newly discovered evidence. That's why I want to see what this statement said about that, and it said nothing. This was just a whitewash, political influence used in order to get him out from under. And all those minority kids that are out there in Chicago that are being arrested and convicted for offenses far less than this, far less gravity than this, I'd like to see what their defense attorneys are going to do when they go to the Cook County prosecutor and say, how about my guy?
It's been my experience that prosecutors...
So Bobby Bianchi, criminal defense attorney and a former Morris County, New Jersey prosecutor, has never seen anything like this in his career. Yeah, it's pretty strange. It's what happens sometimes when big politics comes into play and people are running for president and they attempt to grab power in untoward ways. Let's see what else Bobby has has to say about this.
Stood up. One side said one thing, and the other side called him horrible.
Absolutely. So I ran an agency, so sometimes I had to make decisions that the police weren't comfortable with. But I brought them into the office. I explained to them the reasons for those decisions. And again, they may hold their nose, but they would say, okay, fine, that's your discretion. But it was based upon the facts, and it was based upon the law. The fact that they never even communicated to this, and the police and the mayor are just blindsided when they find out about this emergency hearing that had to happen so quickly with this kiss of an agreement that
and they
call
all the reporters down there this morning. You got to come. They called everybody who'd been covering. You got to come down here. We're going to have a news conference.
This should be investigated. There is something completely not correct with what went on here. And I've never seen anything like this where you have a mayor and a police department that are now at odds with a prosecutor's office where they work with them day in and day out about what they believe. I know they feel like they've gotten thrown under the bus. That now everybody's going out and saying, oh, the police investigated them. It was a sham. How can you as a prosecutor? I've indicted cases in the grand jury. The grand jury, the citizens of the county are the ones that make a decision of whether or not there's going to be an indictment. And 23 folks said there was enough evidence to move this case forward to trial, and a prosecutor unilaterally decides to give it away. It's not right.
So this should be investigated, former prosecutor Bianchi says. There's something completely not correct with what went on here. Damn straight. This is just completely unheard of. My opinion, what I think happened, I think that once Jussie sent himself that letter, the FBI knew. They said, this is fake. And they said to themselves, all right, let's pretend we're investigating, and let's just hold off and watch what he does. We'll give him rope to hang himself, literally and figuratively, and that's exactly what Jussie Smollett did. He hung himself. Just want to finish up with how Shepard Smith and Bob Bianchi finished this up.
Bianchi, I think there's probably more coming here.
I'm agitated, and I hope there is.
Bob, wow, thank you.
Read. Anybody who's intelligent and has their eyes open to what's going on around them in the world should be agitated by this. This type of manipulation of the legal system and the media is just disgraceful. So what do you think, Cory Booker? What do you think about all this?
These sources are telling many networks that Mr. Smollett is under potential investigation for, concocting a story and paying these men. Now police sources are telling many networks that Mr. Smollett is under potential investigation for, concocting a story and paying these men. Or, concocting a story and paying these men. Concocting a story and paying these men. Is it time to revisit, concocting a story and paying these men? Concocting a story and paying these men. Is it time to revisit?
Have you spoken with Mr. Smollett?
No.
Senator, I want to ask you about Amazon because you.
Mr. Smollett?
No.
Senator, I want to ask.
With Mr. Smollett?
No.
Senator, I want to.
Mr. Smollett?
No.
Senator.